we didn't have sports, what would we cheer about?
That was the open-ended question from King County Councilmember Pete Von Reichbauer, who hosted a transparently blatant cheerleading session this afternoon for professional sports in Seattle. It included Mariners and Seahawks representatives testifying about community outreach before the county's Regional Policy Committee. It comes as the M's continue to push for a new lease deal with $180 million in hotel-motel taxes, which they say can only be used for critical infrastructure improvements at taxpayer-built Safeco Field.
The tax situation in Seattle and King County is kind of bad.
Today, Councilmember Larry Gossett, in front of M's officials, became the third member to signal his disapproval.
Why in the world does the public, not only in King County but across our country, keep giving public tax dollars to very wealthy professional teams? The owners could easily come up with $190 million in 15 or 20 years, and that still remains the crux of the issue.
An issue that faces increased scrutiny and another public hearing next week. I asked Gossett today if his comments could be interpreted as meaning he's against the M's funding request, and he said yes, that he's backing Jeannie Cole Wells' alternative plan, which calls for drastically reducing the public subsidy and giving most of that revenue to build affordable housing. That hearing on the proposal is next Wednesday at the King County Council chambers, and I was told today they are expecting an overflow crowd in council chambers.
So, Chris, the backdrop is they're renegotiating their lease for Safeco Field. What happens if they can't come to an agreement?
I think we've heard from Fred Rivera, who is the general counsel of the Mariners at this point, saying they don't necessarily want to talk about that next step, but in the terms of the current lease, they are allowed to potentially make a 5-year lease extension. They would have to go back to the drawing board and negotiate that with the Public Facilities District, but that's something they're willing to do. They're not talking at all right now. We should make it perfectly clear. The Mariners are not talking at all about moving out of Seattle here. They say they're trying to find a reasonable solution to extend their stay at Safeco Field.
They have identified, what, $130 million worth of improvements that need to be done. Can they live with fewer than that much?
It's a great question. I mean, they walked us around yesterday. We showed it to you here on King 5, showing all the problems they say there are with expansion joints, with rust, with paint, pointing out all the imperfections at Safeco Field. And they say they've identified dozens and dozens of fixes that they need at Safeco Field. Whether they can live without some of them, maybe that's part of the negotiation we see here over the next several weeks.